recorded live and will be made available in the governor's YouTube channel.
Conchita, you may proceed. We're live.
Very good. Thank you so much, Crystal. Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 2:03, and welcome to the Zero Waste Working Group virtual meeting. If we could begin with the first item, which is the introductions of members. Perhaps maybe Lola, if you would like to share some opening remarks. I apologize.
Hi, Hafide, everyone. Welcome to the Zero Waste Working Group. And thank you for taking part.
Okay. So on behalf of the first gentleman in the Zero Waste Working Group chairman who will not be able to be with us today, welcome to everyone. And if we could start with, I know Lola's here. She is the director of the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Is there anyone else from BSP that would like to introduce themselves? I'm going by alphabetical order. So BSP first, DPW if they're available, GIPA, then followed by the Port Authority of Guam.
Good afternoon. This is Monica Guerrero from the Bureau of Statistics and Plans. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Camacho from BSP.
Thank you. Department of Public Works.
Joe, I should be coming in.
Okay. You let me know when to stop and so she can introduce herself. Let's continue with the Guam Environmental Protection Agency. Do we have any participants? Okay, Port Authority of Guam. Mr. Havilana?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. This is Joe Havilana.
Very good. If you can go ahead and introduce the rest of your team from the port.
I can't see them. They can go ahead
Hi
and
there.
introduce themselves.
Hi there, Jared Perez from the Port Authority of Guam.
Okay. And let's go ahead and round it off with the subcontractors for this project. Let's start off with Congruent.
Half a day, Julie Carver from Congruent.
What time is it over there? You're in Denver?
It's 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, but I was just thinking about this. You know, Tyrone had me up at 2 o'clock in the morning on his radio show, so this isn't bad.
Thank you for joining us. David?
Hi, this is David Bell from Praxis. I'm in Guam.
Very good. Thank you, David. So could we go ahead and get a motion to approve of the minutes to date? I have not received any comments to the minutes that were sent out a couple of times, once in April and again in May. Could I get maybe someone from the port to make a motion to approve the minutes with as is?
Yes, this is Joe Havilana. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Could we get a second from BSP?
Conchita, I second the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you very much. And moving on to the overview and the objectives, just to be very, very general about this, is that as we go through the outline, it's pretty self-explanatory. The big thing that we want to offer the participants today is, and you can think about it now and maybe later on we can add it at the very end before we adjourn, which is other topics that you would like to see in this virtual meeting. Another big thing, a big item to focus in on is some of the priorities that you believe should come first. In other words, what should be the immediate focus? And we'd like to hear your thoughts. I mean, the Zero Waste Master Plan, if you've gone through it, is pretty self-explanatory, but perhaps maybe within your respective departments, there's something that rises up higher than the rest. So we'd like to hear from you on that. Now, in terms of, we'll move on to the next, which is the review of previous meeting action items. As I mentioned in my email yesterday, just to add more clarity, there were two action items that were discussed in the March meeting. And one was the Port Authority of Guam's Sustainability and Resilience Project. And then there was the Sustainability Guahan with the Guam Environmental Protection Agency. And so Guam EPA is not here at the moment, but perhaps Joe, could you share what's going on with that particular project?
Yes. So, one of the discussions that we had initially, of course, with yourself and Rory regarding the sustainability resiliency plan is Rory wanted to include that actually in the master plan. There's a section in the master plan, the 2023 master plan, that talks about the SNR, and of course approved by yourself, found it fitting that it should be included in the 2023 master plan. The other discussion that we had was because it's already 2025. It was something that we wanted to bring to the group on the proposal to take a look at and maybe rename it the 2025 master plan. Of course, that's not yet final.
Okay.
Bearing any type of requirements, from BSP in terms of, do we need to do another public outreach? So that's something that we need to work with BSP. But the insertion of the sustainability resiliency plan has been completed, and we do have a copy of that. The final master plan with that plan included, inserted in there. I do want to apologize because based on our last meeting, I wanted to share the sustainability and resiliency plan, but I was not able to send that out. I will, however, send that and share it with the group after this meeting.
Or how about this, Joe? Just as a recommendation, if it's online already,
Mhm.
at the port's website, then we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Because it is one of the documents that's generated, just like the modernization plan for the port. There should probably be I know this is the large document. I mean, there's the summary, which I believe is going to be presented at the Pacific Islands Environment Conference in Saipan around the third week of June. But then there's the big document. So there's two documents as I understand it. Maybe at least the big document, if that can be put online, if you can talk to your marketing folks that's responsible for the website, if you can ask them to maybe create a tab.
A link. Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
a link, just because it's too voluminous, right? There's just no way you can send that to everyone. And I know because I've tried.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but if you could at least make it available on your website, at least the link for it, so and just let everyone know that, look, it's available, and here's the link that could lead you to that document. That would be great.
Noted.
And I know there's some other items too, like another grant. Are you able to talk about that too, or not yet, right? Until they make the
Yeah, so we this is regarding the FHWA grant that we submitted. Um, no word yet. I've asked Angela to follow up on the status. There's no response from the program folks, so we're still trying to stay on top of this. But this is the LCTM grant that we submitted. No word on it, but as soon as we hear from them, we'll definitely share it with the group.
And then we have some positive, we got some positive feedback on another grant, which we're not supposed to discuss, right? Until they make it.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
So, we'll make that available.
Maybe,
You
maybe,
know,
okay, maybe on the next meeting we can do that.
that would be good, but there's got to be
Yeah.
some, I know there has to be some interaction with BSP for sure.
Uh,
Guam
uh,
EPA, you know.
yes, definitely. Once we get
Okay.
the joint notification and the press release, yes, we'll get the ball rolling, and of course we want to share it, but we'll
Not
hold
right now.
off. We'll hold off for the grand tour.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Do we have any questions? Anyone have any questions for Joe before we move on? And I see that, oh, Angela's on from the port. Welcome, Angela. Hello? Okay, so the number 3 is the contract progress on our progress update on the contract. And one of the things we talked about last week was a proposal for outreach and education, which was submitted to BSP for their consideration. And on this note, I would like to ask, let's see here, get Praxis to perhaps discuss a little bit about what's going on in that area.
Oh, Conchita,
Yes.
sorry.
No worries. And just, the slide that I've switched to is, this was taken out of the Zero Waste Master Plan just as a backdrop to what we should be doing. And David from Praxis will discuss some of his proposal that was sent to BSP and things that he's looking at or lining up. Thank you.
What we're
David?
doing now is, Conchita, Julie has provided us with the high-res files from the master plan. So what we're doing is organizing that and preparing to turn over all of those files that we would have used to create a website. We're going to turn them over to BSP, and then Matt will create a link on the BSP site, so that there will be a zero waste tab on the BSP site. And so you'll be able to go into that tab and you'll see the key 12 initiatives. You'll be able to see a lot of other information related to the master plan. This is really the first time the master plan will kind of be revealed publicly on a social media platform. And that's one of the main goals of the effort, with outreach and education. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. We're also looking at social media and ways to operationalize that and mobilize that for young people and for indigenous groups.
Okay. And then I know you mentioned
Is there anything else
I think you mentioned
related to that?
I think you mentioned we spoke very, very briefly, and we don't need to get into the details, but a lot of the work that you're already doing in your packaging for BSP, this is the content that will go onto their website, right? It'll be the basis for the social media. It'll also be the basis for the visuals. The visuals.
Well, it is visual.
Yeah, right.
It is visual.
I guess, I'm so old school. I'm thinking like
Yeah.
posters and things
Well,
of that.
if you're familiar with the master plan,
Right.
the master plan is it's not just a narrative document. It is a very engaging visual document, and it's basically made up of infographics and graphic design. So what we've done is deconstructed the document, and we have all of that, and we're going to be able to use that to support Matt in his effort to build a website and also on social media. Of course, we have some opportunity too to develop videos and to develop PSAs for social media, and we'll share those also with Matt as well. So we're basically, digging into that task and getting prepared to turn over some material to Lola and her team.
Very good. Do we have any questions for David? Anyone? Thank you. Thank you, David, for that. Let's see here. Sorry about that. I didn't mean that.
This is an example, Conchita, I know you're early, but this is an example of some of the infographs and information that we'll be turning over to Matt.
Yep. And
This is an example of what's in the master plan and how it's shaped and how it's very visual. It's very kind of infographic based. So it's really ripe for web development and social media.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, Julie. That's your slide.
Sorry about that, Julie.
No, I was trying to move the
It's like-
screen down.
Oh,
I have to
okay.
click on to the next, go back so we can, stay on track with the agenda. The zero waste working group priorities. So we'd like to discuss the key priorities from the master plan and also hear from the zero waste working group on on identifying the priority initiatives for immediate focus, if any, but we'd like to keep that open and then let me get back to, okay, Julie.
Thanks, Conchita. Just as a brief refresher, the 12 initiatives recommended for implementation in the Zero Waste Master Plan over the next 20 years are presented on this slide. Some of the initiatives recommended in the Zero Waste Master Plan are new initiatives, and some are also recommended in the original 2013 Zero Waste Plan. The overlap between these two plans was deliberate and ensures that the original initiatives from the 2013 Zero Waste Plan were included where progress had been made, but the initiative was not yet complete. Okay, next slide, please, Conchita. The Zero Waste Master Plan focuses on implementing 4 phases of initiatives and projects associated with those initiatives over 20 years and should be used to guide GovGuam and industry stakeholders in facilitating Guam's transition to achieve a more sustainable future. Criteria used to establish the recommended phasing of initiatives included the ability to increase the quantity of waste diverted away from landfill disposal, which is critical to achieving the Zero Waste Act target of 50% waste diversion by 2035, creating on-island markets to increase local demand for recycled materials, strengthening resilience by building infrastructure capacity to increase recycling and resource recovery, and enhancing sustainability by achieving synergies among stakeholders from the private and nonprofit sectors and the government to leverage resources, increase efficiencies, and improve market influence. Next slide. So phases 1 and 2 were completed from 2013 to 2023. So we start in the Zero Waste Master Plan with phase 3. The Zero Waste initiatives recommended in phase 3 should be launched. Some are already underway by Guam EPA and continued through 2028, ideally. Especially time sensitive will be implementation of a mandatory residential island-wide collection program, developing the legal and regulatory framework to stand up an EPR for packaging initiative, and initiating additional recommended initiatives that will increase waste diversion to meet or exceed Guam's waste diversion goal of 50% by 2035. The zero waste initiatives included in phase 4, include those that will require time to build support among industry stakeholders, nonprofits, and private sector organizations that may ultimately develop and operate future waste diversion facilities. The specific recommended phase 4 activities are listed on the right side of this slide. Okay, next slide.
Let me just, this is quite a bit of information, and I just want to maybe pause for a little bit here. See if
Okay.
anyone had any questions, please, say something if something information on this particular slide, jumps out at you or you'd like to add anything.
And I guess I would like to say, I know Guam EPA has a number of the initiatives in phase 3 underway. The Guam legislature is working on a number of these initiatives. As well, the Port of Guam has blended many of these initiatives, excuse me, into their sustainability plan and are already working on them. And they've jumped way ahead on a couple of the initiatives.
Okay. Hearing no questions or comments, I will proceed with the next slide.
Okay, the zero waste initiatives recommended in phase 5 include those listed on the left side of this slide. Implementing these zero waste initiatives will strengthen the resilience of Guam's zero waste program. Note that many of these activities require new legislation, as well as more extensive research and planning to implement. Ideally, the activities in this phase should be undertaken and implemented concurrently to be optimally effective. The activities recommended in phase 6 are expected to include optimization as appropriate of previously implemented initiatives and programs to expand Guam zero waste horizons and leverage green circular economy opportunities. Periodic review of the zero waste master plan is critical at least once every 5 years to identify additional and varied plan priorities as new conditions develop on Guam regionally and worldwide. And that's particularly important in light of what's going on in the United States and the impacts worldwide today. Recommended actions and zero waste initiatives will then need to be adjusted accordingly. Next, did you leave the suggested timeline in, Conchita?
There you go.
Okay. In the original zero waste master plan, we did include a timeline for implementation of the initiatives, depicting anticipated anticipation durations, as well as recommended start and end dates. And again, this is a dynamic document, as all master plans are, and this is going to need to be updated as time goes on. Some of these timelines we've already gone past. Some of the initiatives are underway that weren't going to start until, phase 4. So this was just the starting point for the schedule, but it was a way to get people going on them and also have a metric against which to measure.
Okay.
Conchita, I was gonna say, can you maybe take it from there and we
Yeah,
can
no worries. Now for
answer
Guam,
questions?
yeah, if there are any questions, I just wanted to comment on the phase 3 that, Guam EPA and other agencies, including the Mayor's Council of Guam, are authorized to issue litter citations. I know there needed to be an updated training, and that's always done by the courts. I don't know what the status is, and since Guam EPA is not here yet, we can just, or not in this meeting, we can circle back with them on this one. And then the mandatory island-wide collection, I know that there was a bill that was sponsored, did not pass, but I think is being revisited again. We know that based on the reporting from Glenn St. Nicholas from Guam EPA, he talked about the grant that was provided to Guam EPA in partnership with the Guahan Sustainability, which is a nonprofit organization on composting, organic composting. So that's pretty active right now, and they have workshops going on. They have bins, I think, that are even provided to individuals who take the class, and with the agreement that they'll be reporting how much they compost in their household. For those of you interested, let me know. I believe I may have a link. You need to register, and then then Guahan Sustainability will schedule you to when you can come in for the training. You don't get the bin unless you go through the training. So my understanding is you get one of those pails that Guam EPA used to give out, because those are measured amounts. And then you have a choice between the tumbler and the stationary one, which is, I think, 64 gallons. And the tumbler takes up to 55 gallons. And then there's even something smaller. So you get to choose what you want to use, but you have to take the class. And if you take the class, my understanding is, and I confirmed it with Sabrina Cruz Sablon from Guam EPA, once you take the class, they'll give you the kitchen bin and then the container that you've selected for outside to do your composting. And you're supposed to measure that. And I understand too that they even give part of your participation would include you receiving fresh produce, is my understanding. And that's as much as I got from my discussions and with Sabrina Cruz Sablon, as well as looking at the information provided online by Guahan Sustainability. You can definitely go onto their website. It's there. Look under composting, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But I think that's a wonderful project. EPR for packaging. That hasn't taken off as far as I know. Waste tires are still being shipped off island, and I know there was some discussions or some agreement with the Guam Solid Waste Authority on its reuse as daily cover, is my understanding. And that is what also Glenn St. Nicholas, I believe, shared.
Conchita, could I just add, I thought that rather than daily cover, they were talking about chipping the tires and using them as sub-base on equipment pads out at the
landfill?
Lejeune landfill.
Then I stand corrected.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's both, but because
that-
I know we've talked to them before about maybe daily cover isn't the highest and best use for that. That as a sub-base, it might be even better.
I agree, and again, I think we'll just table that for Mr. St. Nicholas when he joins us. I know for the glass disposal ban, you need legislation for that. I do know that there is something in the law that allows DPW to use it as part of the base course. Julie?
The existing DPW specifications, the glass, the crushed glass actually meet existing DPW regulations for certain sub-base materials. So it just needs somebody to champion it and start using it.
Right,
So
and then in order to do that, you need to have a ban on the disposal of waste glass into the landfill.
that
So-
kind of goes hand in glove. Yeah. I mean, the ban would suddenly make glass immediately available for that. Whereas right now people are not, they're putting it in the landfill, which is not the best use for it. So,
Right.
but
No,
people are, understandably hesitant about implementing bans, but we have a great use for it. And I mean, once we start crushing and they start using it for sub-base, it's used for sub-base on the mainland US and throughout Europe, and it's a great material. Once people start using it and see what an outstanding engineering material it is, there's going to be more demand than supply. But it's just a matter of getting over that hump and educating them so that they start using it.
right.
Um,
And there's a couple of things here. So when we talk about the disposal ban, that just means that you can't take it to the landfill. There's a very big difference between that and the single-use plastics that are used for, everyday shopping, right? There was a ban on that. So that meant none of those single-use plastic products, especially the plastic bags, excuse me, could be used. It's out. Okay. In this case, the ban is not so much saying you can't use glass. You can't bring in glass into Guam. What it means is you just can't take it and throw it into the landfill because it's perceived as a valuable material. And there is a company on island that does have a glass crusher that could get it to certain grades.
Yep, they do. And I think this is a prime target for a focused education and outreach effort.
Yeah.
We're ready to take off with this. We need to push the education and outreach to bring everybody on board. And this could be a huge success. Huge. I also wanted to mention, because Glenn had talked about it when he was in our March meeting, that there was ongoing legislative hearings about modifications to the residential mandatory island-wide collection program, so that perhaps this time it could pass. That's a, chicken and egg situation, or hand and glove, whatever analogy you want to use. But that mandatory residential island-wide collection program will make littering decrease island-wide and help immensely with enforcement. And those two were deliberately put together in that phase because of that. So anyway, I know that individual government employees certainly can't lobby for specific initiatives like this, but if you were ever asked about your opinion about whether this is important or not, I would encourage you to let your legislators know, just as a private, resident, that mandatory residential island-wide collection could help solve a lot of different issues on Guam.
Well, and being, retiring from Guam EPA after 30 years, I've seen it where, I've been in that period of time where no one had to pay for trash collection, right? And of course, with the advent of the receivership, then you had the monthly bill. But I can tell you that didn't change. When it was free, people were dumping. When people were paying a fee but were given an option, they're still dumping. So, this was raised because it's like, well, if you have to pay for it, most people know that if you have to pay for it, you'll use the service. So we'll see, we'll keep an eye on how this develops. So we move on to phase 4. I know that some agencies already have been, they're doing some form of diversion. And in terms of phase number 5 and C and D diversion, we know that if it goes through one stop, Guam EPA has a system where all C and D cannot go. Well, first of all, it's not accepted into the landfill, but for sure diverted to a hard fill. There was something they can use, do some beneficial reuse. That's probably going to be better. And then I've heard nothing else regarding the phase 6, which is the used oil recycling. And on that note, I'm gonna open this up for any questions. Anyone?
I guess I would like to say I believe very, very strongly, and I can't make enough of a push for this, other than to say over and over again, education and outreach on these initiatives. It's critical, and it will bring about the change to make all of this happen, but we've got to do that education and outreach. It is imperative.
Okay. And since there are no comments, let's go ahead and finish up with number 3, the progress update. I would like to add, I know we've gone over this, shared the initiatives and you know, what should be done. David Bell from Praxis discussed the outreach and public education efforts. I'd like to add that, because this was discussed in the last meeting about regulatory reviews and draft legislation. To date, we've not received, Anita and its subcontractors have not received any requests to review any regulatory or draft legislation. And I'd like to just, put that in for the record. If there are no comments on this particular item, let's move on to number 4, which, talks about establishing formal group priorities. Do we have, this is where we open it up. Is there anything that really stands out? Well, if, and I realize that we're missing a few other agencies, but if it does come in, if you do have an idea, let us know. I'll be developing the minutes. And then number 5, there were some key initiatives which we talked about, which actually Julie discussed regarding the mandatory residential wide collection. And we don't have much of a, I haven't heard the latest on what's happening with that. I know there was a discussion on the Lifeline funding. There was issues for low to no income families. And then we talked about Senator Perez's bill to expand the composting definition. I've not seen anything yet. And then on the recycling enterprise zone, did you want to, I know there are some sites that were proposed, and I know that needs to still go before the board for approval. EPPs, the environmentally preferred purchasing. I don't have any information. I know that there was some coordination between Guam EPA and I believe the DOA's GSA, and they're not here in this meeting right now, but we can circle back later on. I'm going to stop for a moment because I said quite a bit. Do we have any questions?
I also think as part of the sustainability plan for the port, Angela and Joe were working with the Department of Administration, GSA, on standing up a prototype agency, EPP, that we could use, get stood up so that other agencies could see how to go about doing it. I'm not sure where that's at right now, but I know that the work had begun. So that was all part of Gov Guam leading the way.
Okay.
We can probably update you on the next meeting on that, unless Angela has something to make comment on this.
No, sir, not at this time. I know that procurement for supplies that are in stock are making every effort to ensure that they comply with EPP.
Okay.
So, we'll wait for the next meeting then, Joe, to get the update, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Now, number 7, confirmation of next meeting date. We usually try to go to the last third Tuesday, but if we could, and I know this moves, so, and I apologize, it's moved a couple of times. And if I were to look at the next Tuesday, that would be around maybe the 24th or the 17th. Let's go shoot for the 24th of June. That's a Tuesday. So let's hold it tentatively on the 24th of June, because I still need to circle back with the first gentleman on his availability, as well as BSP's director's availability for that day. But let's at least put in June 24th, 2 p.m. as a tentative date for the next meeting, unless there are any objections to that. Okay. And then open discussion and adjournment. I'm going to go back and say, you know, are there any additional topics or concerns? And I realize that we dialogue with BSP all the time. So when they have a concern, they're very quick to say, look, I'm concerned. And I know, and I realize that DPW and Guam EPA are not in this meeting today, but I'd like to open up to the Port Authority of Guam if there are any additional topics or concerns they'd like to raise at this time. Oh, I see Lola. Okay, Lola.
Hi, so I just wanted to, you know, we mentioned Guam Solid Waste, we mentioned the Mayor's Council of Guam. Hold on, I just need to take a call right now. Can we just defer, see if the port wants to say anything?
Okay, so Joe and your team, is there something you'd like to raise? For topics or any concerns you'd like to raise? And if you don't have it right now, that's okay too, okay? You can just email us. I'm good with that. We're good with that. And so we'll wait on Lola, because I get it, she's on another call.
There's several people calling. So I wanted to find out, can we explore, I mean, because you mentioned the Mayor's Council of Guam,
Okay,
and we also mentioned Guam Solid Waste. You know, just thinking in the Zero Waste Working Group, the executive order, I'm, you know, just wondering, is this something we could consider inviting them to the meetings? Or, you know, for them to contribute, or can they be part of the Zero Waste Working Group
I think that we can invite them to the meeting.
for consideration?
Yeah, that's right. And then we can work in the membership later. But at least I think step one is that let's get them to participate. I mean, I certainly think that's very, very helpful, because you're right. You know, this is waste, and Guam EPA is here from the regulatory side, but the people that deal with this is also the Guam Solid Waste Authority. This is their purview, and then of course MCOG. I mean, we can expand that later, but I think those are two pretty solid groups that should be invited. And I think Lola, the invitation would have to come from your office. I could prepare the letter. It's the same letter like the invitation. Remember the invitation that went out to all the other agencies? So we'd have to follow that route.
Okay. And then the other thing, just to mention to the group, we did submit for public comments on the CDBG-DR funding that was submitted April 29th. It was basically information on the critical need for permanent disaster debris management and resource recovery sites under the Community Development Block Grant disaster relief. And that's why I kind of mentioned, I think we need to explore, you know, having the Mayor's Council of Guam, you know, inviting them to take part in these meetings, because I feel that should you know, the plan is we would explore with Anaton to submit a proposal for this part, but the partnership will be with the Mayor's Council of Guam, because the location of the area would be, I guess for, initial plot,
Yeah, based on
pilot site would
action
be in Dededo.
Yeah, yeah, Dededo, but there are two others. I mean, that could easily switch over to either Agate, and I think the third one was Melissa. Those are the three priority areas. So,
Molesto, yes.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Any other issues, topics, or concerns anyone would like to raise or add? Okay, very good.
I do have,
Oh, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
continue. Yes, I do have, it's not a concern, but more of an update. I know that in our SNR, we talked about the different rest sites. In fact, number 3 in our proposal was for the Old Hawaiian Rock site. So I just wanted to give an update to the team that the port recently entered to a lease agreement with Black Construction for their breakwater project. So they're going to rehabilitate the glass breakwater, and the Old Hawaiian Rock area is a site that they that's part of the lease area, and they're going to in fact, one day I saw the area just shrubbery. Right now it's totally been removed of all those junk that is in there. And what they're going to do is they're going to actually construct 2 buildings. I believe it's an 8,000 square foot building and a smaller one, a 2,000 to 4,000 square foot building. And also they're going to, there's going to be a pad that they're proposing to include, which is going to be perfect, for us, for our one of our res sites. And that lease is, I believe it's 5 years. So that's an update that we wanted to bring to the group.
Thank you, Joe. And on that, if there are no other comments, the time is now 2:49 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned until the next meeting. And then you should be expecting my notes, the summary of the minutes within a couple of weeks. I am leaving tomorrow for my medical appointments, but I will get these out to you as soon as I return. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, and you have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Safe
thank
flight.
you.